Hello, Celtic fans. Buckle up because the situation at Lennox Town right now is nothing short of chaotic, and we need to get into the thick of it. Ever since Sunday's match, the talk has been relentless, with supporters, pundits, and former players all having their say, and it's clear that things are far from settled. The atmosphere around the club has shifted into a tense, uneasy place, and if you've been paying attention, it's obvious that the cracks are showing not just in results on the pitch, but in the very fabric of the club itself. Let's start with the recent chatter surrounding Wilfried Nancy and his arrival at the club. The man came in with a reputation from his time across the Atlantic, showing some decent managerial prowess in the United States, but it appears the transition has been anything but smooth. The squad, according to multiple insiders, are struggling to align with his methods, and the rapport that's supposed to exist between players and manager seems fractured from the very start. There's been a fair bit of discussion about Stevie Woods, the long-serving goalkeeping coach, and his sudden exit after 18 years at the club. Whether you take the rumors at face value or dig a little deeper, there's no denying that his departure signals friction behind the scenes. The fact that Nancy was asked about Woods shortly after taking charge is telling in itself, and it hints at an internal discord that the club might not be ready to publicly admit. Observers have noticed the disconnection between Nancy and his players in interviews and on the training ground. Liam Scales, when questioned after Sunday's game about why the team seems lost, offered a one-word reply, "Deno," and left it at that. It's hardly the kind of answer that inspires confidence. Luke McCowan, a few days prior, mentioned the challenge of adapting to new tactics, admitting that while the manager is confident, the team's response remains uncertain. Austin Trusty, too, didn't exactly offer full support in his remarks, leaving a subtle but noticeable gap in faith that further emphasizes the uneasy situation. Watching the team on the pitch only reinforces this perception. The cohesion that you'd expect from players behind their manager is missing. They're not fully engaged, not fully committed, and the chemistry that should be palpable in a well-oiled team simply isn't there. This isn't just anecdotal, it's evident in every touch, every misplaced pass, and every lackluster effort when the team is under pressure. Wilfried Nancy's reign, barely into its second fortnight, already feels like it's teetering on the edge. Stephen McGowan recently wrote about the predicament, highlighting two stark options for the club. One, admit that this isn't working and make a swift change, perhaps recalling memories of the Dom Mai episode from 2021, or two, back Nancy and hope that, given time and proper squad adjustments in January, he can turn things around. Both scenarios carry risks. Cutting ties so early might feel like an admission of failure, but continuing to support Nancy without the necessary backing from players or the board could spiral into an even bigger problem. The issue of squad depth adds another layer of complexity. With key players like Sebastian Tekti and Michel Annalisa unavailable due to AFCON commitments, the team's attacking options are stretched to breaking point. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Alistair Johnson, and Callum Osmond are also sidelined, leaving Johnny Kenny and Shin Yamada as the main options up front. Marcelo Sarra and Kelechi Iheanacho are struggling with recurring hamstring problems, further thinning out the roster. Daisen Maeda has expressed willingness to stay until the World Cup concludes, which is helpful, but it's hardly a panacea given the overall lack of firepower at Nancy's disposal. When you consider all of this, it paints a grim picture. A manager trying to implement his vision, a squad stretched across multiple fronts with limited depth, and An atmosphere where confidence and cohesion are in short supply. Then there's the wider context, including comments from former Celtic figures like Martin O'Neill, who recently reflected on the awkward early days of Nancy's appointment. O'Neill mentioned he would have stayed on to support the transition had he been asked, which is a polite way of highlighting just how tenuous Nancy's early days have been. Meanwhile, the whisperings about Brendan Rodgers heading to the Saudi Pro League, reconnecting with former contacts, and potentially enticing players who aren't happy with the current situation at Celtic adds an almost surreal dimension to the unfolding story. Callum McGregor, who reportedly isn't fully content with Nancy's leadership, might be tempted by such ventures, though one hopes loyalty to the club would prevail. On the pitch, results remain crucial. Rangers have continued to apply pressure, sitting just 3 points behind despite a frustrating number of drawn-on games. Celtic, despite holding a game in hand, cannot afford to be complacent. Each match now carries immense weight, and the pressure on Nancy and the squad is tangible. It's not merely about tactics or formations, it's about leadership, unity, and a shared belief that the team can overcome adversity. Right now, every misstep, every poorly timed pass, every lack of intensity feeds the narrative that all is not well. The reality is, walking into this season, Nancy faced a squad with potential, but also vulnerabilities, and the challenge has proven to be greater than anticipated. Observers, fans, and insiders alike are watching closely, and the pressure mounts with each passing game. Even beyond results, the club culture and internal dynamics are under scrutiny. The dissonance between the manager and key players, the departures of long-serving staff, and the sporadic clarity from the board signal a period of instability that could define this season. The question on everyone's lips is whether Nancy can consolidate authority, win over the squad, and translate his ideas into consistent performance on the pitch, or whether the cracks will widen, leading to a season of missed opportunities and frustration for the fans. It's a precarious moment, and one where every decision, from player selections to tactical shifts, is magnified. The pressure is immense, the stakes high, and the sense of urgency palpable as Celtic fans brace themselves for what may come in the coming weeks. Moving forward, the situation at Lennox Town only seems to be getting more complicated, and it's not just about what's happening on the pitch. The atmosphere around the club, from the boardroom to the training ground, is rife with uncertainty, and fans are feeling it with every passing match. Wilfried Nancy's struggles to win over the players are becoming increasingly visible, and it's clear that even small cracks in trust can have a huge impact on performance. The players themselves, while professional, are navigating a challenging period where morale isn't at its highest. Interviews with key squad members reveal an undercurrent of frustration and disconnection, subtle yet unmistakable. Statements that seem polite on the surface often carry undertones of hesitation or skepticism, and this speaks volumes about the tenuous grip Nancy has on the squad. It's not just a matter of tactical disagreements, it's a question of confidence, leadership, and the intangible sense of belief that makes or breaks a manager. Wilfried Nancy, despite his prior success in the United States, is facing the brutal reality that reputation alone doesn't translate across leagues or cultures. The players' lack of full commitment, combined with injuries and absences due to AFCON, has left the squad thin and vulnerable, and it's a scenario that magnifies every misstep. Johnny Kenny and Shin Yamada are now relied upon as the main attacking threats, and while both have potential, It's a lot of pressure on relatively inexperienced shoulders. Marcelo Sara and Kelechi Iheanacho's ongoing hamstring issues only add to the instability, creating further uncertainty in selection and tactical planning. The options at Nancy's disposal are limited, and that makes every decision, whether it's formation, substitutions, or strategy, that much more critical. Off the pitch, there's speculation and chatter that doesn't make life any easier. Brendan Rodgers' reported move to the Saudi Pro League has been a talking point, and for some Celtic players who may already be questioning their commitment to the current regime, it introduces an alternative that could be tempting. Callum McGregor, for example, has not been entirely happy with the club's direction, and whispers about potential moves, whether realistic or not, add another layer of tension to an already delicate environment. This is the sort of distraction that can quietly undermine even the most disciplined squad if not managed carefully. Meanwhile, the board's stance, particularly Dermot Desmond's historic comments about support during difficult times, suggests a willingness to allow Nancy breathing space. But in practice, the club's recent volatility raises doubts about how consistent that support will be. Martin O'Neill's recent reflections on the early days of Nancy's tenure further underscore the precariousness of the current situation. O'Neill mentioned he would have stayed longer to support the transition had he been asked, highlighting just how much uncertainty surrounded Nancy's first interactions with the squad and staff. It's almost surreal to think of a former manager potentially stepping back in mid-season, yet that is the environment Nancy is navigating, one in which legacy, authority, and expectation collide in a tense, unpredictable way. The fans, for their part, are watching closely, weighing each match and each interview, and the sense of impatience is growing. Supporters are well aware that confidence and morale don't magically repair themselves, and that a manager's credibility is tested as much off the pitch as on it. Every moment of hesitation or misjudgment feeds the narrative of struggle. The tactical side of things adds another layer to the complexity. Nancy is trying to implement a system that may have worked in different contexts, but without full buy-in from the players, its effectiveness is limited. Adjustments in formation, changes in wing-back roles, and experimentation with attacking combinations are necessary, but also risk further disconnection if results don't immediately follow. The current squad's composition, with key players missing and several others carrying fitness doubts, makes any system difficult to execute at the level required. Observers have noted that even when players are technically following instructions, the intensity and urgency required in crucial moments are lacking, which has led to matches being lost or drawn that might otherwise have been won. This is where leadership and man management become vital, and it's precisely in these areas that Nancy appears to be struggling. Then there's the question of January reinforcements. Stephen McGowan's insights highlight the potential dilemmas facing the club if they invest in new players mid-season. Should Nancy be removed before the window, new acquisitions may not fit subsequent managers' systems, creating more problems than solutions. Conversely, if he stays, there's no guarantee he can successfully integrate new signings into a squad already grappling with cohesion issues. Every possible scenario carries risk, and this uncertainty feeds the growing narrative that the season could be very difficult if not managed with precision and foresight. The board's role is pivotal here, as is their willingness to either double down on Nancy's strategy or to intervene in a manner that stabilizes the club. Historically, such mid-season managerial transitions are fraught with difficulty, and Celtic have rarely navigated them smoothly. It's impossible to ignore the psychological dimension at play. Players under pressure, a manager seeking authority, and fans demanding results create an environment where tension is almost guaranteed. The mental resilience of the squad is being tested, and each poor performance chips away at confidence. Even the normally consistent performers have shown signs of uncertainty, and that vulnerability is magnified on the pitch, particularly against opponents who sense opportunity. Rangers' proximity in the league table, combined with Celtic's game in hand, adds urgency. The pressure to secure points is intense, and every draw or loss is felt acutely, feeding both external criticism and internal scrutiny. Celtic fans, who have grown accustomed to success, are especially vocal in moments like these, and their expectations, while justified, create an additional layer of complexity for Nancy to navigate. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a low, excited hum rolling round the East End the night, the kind that only Parkhead kens how to make. Whispers are scalping through the pubs, the buses, the stairwells, all pointing to the same daft-sounding idea. A star in the making, a Brazilian band or Fitba, could be heading for the hoops. Nay official word, nay badge-kissing photos, just that familiar feeling that something big might be stirring behind the scenes. The name on every tongue is Endrick Felipe Moreira de Souza. Folk who follow the game closely will tell ye he's just another prospect. He's the striker who burst through at Palmeiras when he was barely out the school gates. The youngest ever to play and score as a professional there, carrying himself like he'd been born under floodlights. From Brazil to Madrid, his rise has been sharp and fast, the kind that makes scouts scribble and fans dream. Officially, he's Real Madrid's man, one for the future, polished and protected. Unofficially, well, that's where the story gets interesting. Around Celtic Park, the chat is that the laddie wants minutes, wants noise, wants pressure. And we're better than a ground that lives and breathes every touch of the ball. Some reckon agents have been spotted. Others swear they've heard Portuguese mingling with Glaswegian accents in unlikely corners. It could all be nonsense, the usual summer daftness. But the idea has caught fire. A Brazilian wonder kid in green and white, learning his trade under the roar of Parkhead, feels mad enough to be brilliant. Supporters aren't talking about tactics or numbers, just imagination, a spark, a swagger, a player who'd get folk off their seats and make defenders greet. Whether it comes to anything or fades like so many rumors before it, the Berberino alone has lifted the place. But now Parkhead waits, listening, hoping, and daring to believe that the next Estrella might soon be lighting up the Glasgow sky. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.